How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 4. So, quick announcement, I guess. If you haven't noticed, we finished Chaos Head last Friday, and that means we're going to be kind of doing the wrap party for that. Wrap party is just basically a time where I set aside to do a live stream where I can't talk about my thoughts about the game in its entirety, full spoilers, just full everything, summarize everything I thought, including routes I didn't showcase on the channel but played on my own. And just can't talk about it as a whole. And it's also when I tend to announce what the next series is going to be that's taking its place. And since it was a Friday series, it's a Fan Friday one, which means that currently, well, once this is going live, the poll will be done. So hopefully you were able to participate. It was posted on the YouTube channel and it was posted on the Discord. Should also be on the Patreon, so actually need to double check and make sure that I did that. But in the end, it is there, and we will know by then what the final option is going to be, which I'll just reveal at the end of the wrap party in case you don't pay attention to that. But that's the thing. If you've had any interest in Chaos Head, maybe played it before, or you watched a playthrough of it, try and see if you can be there. It'll be live streaming probably 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's usually when I do it. It's usually when I can do it. But I'll keep that up to date. And, I just it should be just straightforward. It's a good chance to show up live because you can just chat with me in person then, and I can react to what you're saying. It's an opportunity for us to do back and forth, and you can bring up, thoughts or ask questions that I might have overlooked as I prepared my notes for the entire show. But all in all, very excited to do so. I'm very happy to be able to wrap up a series and exciting to start something new. We've got some good selections for games that are going to come up and be played, so I'm pretty much going to be happy no matter what the result is. I am curious to see what the result's going to be. It's already looking pretty spicy as far as the voting and tallying is going, and we've only just started, so as far as when we're recording this video. So hopefully I'll see you at the live stream tonight, and if you can't make that to live, or if it's already happened, it'll be archived, so if you go to the playlist for Chaos Head, it should be in there. Live streams, live stream can be finicky. YouTube has not been great about pushing those very often, so just keep that in mind. But anyway, thank you so much for being there for that, and now let's jump right in. So last week, we had a very interesting interaction. A lot of you were very excited to chat with me about, and that was the fact that we kind of saw Rika kind of have a out of personality phase where she suddenly started talking like a completely different person, and almost seemed unaware of the conversation that we'd had with her as this investigator. And it was interesting because the one thing that stuck out to me the most was the fact that we've seen people seemingly get possessed. They at least get possessed of a madness before, every character has. Rika's never exhibited that before, not with no crazy eyes, no ramblings or anything. This is the closest we've had, but it was very different, and I think it was intentionally different. There's something else going on that's very special for Rika that is going beyond anything else. And it really felt like a different kind of person, almost like another individual or another personality resided in her. And so, where the others were not necessarily a different person, it felt kind of like a different person and was described as a different person, but it was more, I feel like, a distilling of the worst and most paranoid aspects of the person when they were possessed by whatever that spirit of, it's not Onamichio. I don't know why that popped into my head. The spirit of, the local, not Onagafuchi. That's the second name of the town. Oyashiro, is that what it was? I don't know. I should know it. I think I'm just out of it tonight. I am so sorry. I should be better than this. But again, most of the time when I'm doing these recordings, I'm kind of squeezing them in where I can. Sometimes it's not the most optimal. I'm pretty tired right now, so we're just going to jump in and do it. Yep, let's see what happens now. There's not really much else I could say, I suppose. Just the idea that I noticed that stuff. There was a lot of other stuff we talked about. There's a lot of very interesting things that happened in that recording session. But that was the big one, the big thing that stuck out to me, and a lot of you were very excited to see. So Yeah, very, very cool. All right. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Again, I apologize. I'm kind of in a mentally another place right now, so I'll be getting into it as soon as I can. The phone suddenly rang. I woke up in a hurry. The clock read 9 p.m.
しまった。定時連絡の時間を寝過ごした。
I picked up the receiver.
赤坂様、外線からお電話が入っておりますが、おつなぎしてもよろしいでしょうか。ご同僚の加納様と申されております。
Now, am I also misremembering? I could have sworn that Ooishi was supposed to take us to meet his informant tonight. Did that not happen? I knew it. I didn't call in, so they had to phone me.
すみません。つないでください。
かしこまりました。おつなぎしますので、一度受話器を置いてお待ちください。
After I put down the receiver for a few seconds, the phone began to ring again.
はい、もしもし。赤坂です。
赤坂くん、加納です。お疲れ様。定時連絡がなかったので、こちらからかけました。そちらの状況はどう？
Leaving the lecture for later, my senior coworker got straight to the point.
今日は、ひなみ沢村へ実島に行きました。観光客を装うことで、村長以下の何人かの死守同盟の要人との接触に成功。何も聞き出すには至りませんでしたが、好印象を得て、明日以降へのつなぎを作ることができました。
そう、なかなか手際がいいね。赤坂くんのどこか初々しい感じが、むしろ武器になったのかもしれないね。
Yeah, that's what you even said about him, like, because he was talking about how, like, oh, like, when we live in a democracy in peaceful times, you should never have to resort to violence. And, you know, a lot of you were quick to point out, was like, that's really not true, unfortunately. Which, again, yeah, it's not true, but we wish and can dream, can't we? Ideally, you take those initial steps of participating in the process to try and enact the change you want to see, and it can and does work, but there's times where it feels like there's not enough, especially when the system starts getting more and more rigged against you.
まずは上守備ってところかな。
比較するほど経験がないので、上守備かはわかりませんが、とりあえず、今日のところは順調だと思います。
県警での情報や地元警察の公安での情報と照らしてどう？鬼ヶ淵死守同盟は白っぽい？
I still didn't know. I should have been able to say that immediately. I only had to say that, but for some reason I hesitated.
まだ調査中ですので、なんとも。
そう。なるべく早めにね。わかってると思うけど、今夜が終われば、誘拐から丸4日が経過する。
Yeah, and time's of the essence for kidnapping.
いつが時間切れという明白な区切りはないけど、時間の経過は確実に我々の状況を不利にしていく。それは分かってるよね。
ええ、分かっています。迅速に。だけれど、細心の注意で調査を続けます。
うん。くれぐれも気をつけてね。相手は暴力主義団体なんだから、油断すれば危険もあり得るからね。
Yeah, tell me about it.
危険が迫ったらすぐに連絡を。その場合は、地元公安に応援体制を入れられるようにするからね。
ありがとうございます。頑張ります。
他に、赤坂くんの方から連絡はある？
I repeated several bits of supplementary information at the very end and decided to ask.
そちらの調査の進展はどうですか？
うん。こっちもみんな頑張ってるけど、なかなかはかどらないよ。何しろ、調べる団体が星の数だからね。だから、君の方の団体も白だと分かったらすぐに帰郷して、他の職員の応援に入ってもらいたいんだよ。
That makes sense. Like, they need just everybody. So Kanao was probably hoping that we'll quickly be able to clear them of any suspicion. He'll just be able to come back to Tokyo.
室長は、鬼ヶ淵も洗っとけって言ってるけど、俺は鬼ヶ淵なんかの反ダム住民団体なんかは、今回の件、全く無縁だと思ってるからね。
Interesting that the chief is recognizing it as Onagafuchi, not Hinamizawa or anything. That's interesting.
職員一人を一団体調べさせるためだけに出張させるのは、すごく痛いよ、ほんと。
At this point, he was just complaining. He was telling me to stop taking my time enjoying my trip, to finish up and get back quick.
なるべく早めにケリをつけるようにします。
うん、よろしくね。じゃあ、他に何もなければ切るよ。
はい、特にありません。
As we were ending our call, a colleague scolded me thoroughly for being late with my regular report. After that, I hung up the phone and sprawled out into the bed. Come to think of it, I hadn't heard anything from Ooishi. He was supposed to contact me about some time and place to meet with the informant tonight. I thought about getting angry with Ooishi in retaliation for being scolded for forgetting my daily report. Come to think of it, though, Ooishi didn't really say anything other than that he was going to call tonight. Waiting for a phone call when he didn't know what time it was going to be coming was in itself rather difficult. Well, speak of the devil. Just when I thought of that, the phone rang. Pick up the receiver in a hurry.
もしもし。
これはびっくりしました。赤坂さん、あなた受話器取るの早いですね。
Okay. I heard the click, like the ticking. I was like, is that a clock suddenly? But no, it's just part of the music. What's odd to go here again? How did Ooishi get past the concierge desk? I mean, maybe a policeman could do so in an emergency, but usually you still have to like go through them, right? Maybe he just kind of sweet talked him when he called the desk directly, and like the guy knows him well enough to kind of pass him through without asking questions. But normally, you'd still have to get asked by the front desk to allow that to happen. So that's interesting.
警官辞めても大企業の営業で十分飯が食えますよ。
まだ警官辞めた後のことなんか考えたこともありません。
Especially when he's freaking married.
そこまで過剰に反応されると面白いな。
Like, oh, you protesting too much?
しかしいけないな。因果な商売ですし、今から考えても遅くないですよ。
Every game, he managed to surprise me. Every game. Well, I should say every chapter. They're all technically the same game.
遠慮いたしますので、本題に入ってください、大石さん。
そうですか。それは残念です。じゃあ老後の話は次の機会にでも。
We really don't.
では本題に。
Many of the executives in the Onagafuji Guardians had a lot of sway in the neighboring regions. Even if Okonomiya, there were a lot of people with relations to the village. That's why meeting in the Shishibon Market District far from Okonomiya was a matter of course.
赤坂さん、こっちこっち。ちょっと迷いましたか。北口からの方が遠回りだけど道は分かりやすかったかもしれませんね。
いえ、遅れて申し訳ありませんでした。
夕飯はもう食べちゃいました？
ええ、済ませてあります。
じゃあ、お酒の飲めるお店に行きましょうか。
I thought we were working.
洋酒派？日本酒派？女の子のいる店といない店はどっちがいいですかね？
Why?
お構いなく、勤務中は飲みませんので。
Hearing that, the old man Ooishi had brought along bent backward as he guffawed, clapping Ooishi on the shoulder.
ねえ、初々しい人でしょ？その分ちょっぴりサービスしてあげてくださいよ。あのお金は全部彼のお財布から出てるんですからね。
The man that Ooishi had brought seemed almost like a ticket scalper at or a bookie. Even his appearance was dubious. The informant grinned deviously.
おい、坊主。
Sato.
お前旦那にいくら渡した？だいぶ途中でつまみ食いされてんぞ。
大石氏への仲介手数料も含めていますから、それも含んだ上です。
It seemed that the informant had expected a more extravagant reaction on my part. When I responded matter-of-factly, he realized that I was an entirely different type of person than he was. But rather than putting a distance between us, it seemed that I had piqued his interest.
だから言ったでしょ。真面目な人なんです。でもね、赤坂さん、私たちのような職種の人間は豊富な社会経験がとても武器になるんですよ。
女の子がいて、お酒が飲めるお店での経験がどう武器になるか疑問です。
Oh, I'm sure, like, it's so much easier to get information from people who are comfortable, who are loosened with a little bit of alcohol. Like, if there's a good way to like get some passive information, that's very much it. Like, oh, what was it? Somebody I saw a short that was talking about this. They were talking about how like a good way that you can be trained to gather information is without seeming like you're asking a lot of questions, is to do like kind of like priming leading, where all you have to do is like maybe get people on a topic that you want to learn more about, and then make it an incorrect assertion. Let's see. like, if say we were talking about superheroes, right? And I could be like, oh, so are you a fan of comic books? And you might say, oh, I mean, I've read some comic books, sure. But like, I know you've read a lot more of them. And I'm trying to learn information, like I'm trying to learn what you know about a certain comic book character. Now keep in mind, this is an allegory for like other topics that maybe would be a bit more secretive or a bit more challenging to learn. And it's like, all right, how do I get this? How do I get you to elect to give me information without asking a direct question? Because direct questions tend to get remembered. But if you make someone like sacrifice information on their own, even if it seems relatively harmless, it sets up a pattern that can be used to help exploit them later. So what I could say instead of asking a question like, what powers does Superman have? What powers does Spider-Man have? I could say something along the lines of like, oh yeah, one of the best parts about the Spider-Man story is the fact that how everything he's done is based on technology. You know, like spiders are kind of a theme, but it's more about like his cleverness of being able to get his way, you know, to make himself like seem special. And that's going to immediately, if someone or like is an expert or is fascinated and interested on the topic, they're very likely to say, well, no, that's not actually true. I mean, you could say that maybe about his web spinners, because most of comics, he develops his own web shooters that he uses to actually get around town or to like apprehend his enemies. But he actually was given a lot of powers. Like his power, he has super strength and spider sense and climb on walls. And see, like that's all this information that they just would willingly give over, and they wouldn't even like think that much of it because people like having a conversation. If there's something that they're interested in or they feel like they know a lot about, they're more likely to want to tell you about it, especially if it is to correct you. You don't want to come at them like all aggressive about it, obviously. You want them to make the assumption that you're a bit of a fool and you are making a poor association or mixing up different heroes or whatever the topic is. So that's the idea, is like getting somebody to share information, especially in a way that doesn't make them feel like they're being interrogated, has a lot to do with like the way you talk to them, how they feel when you talk to them, and all of that. So Ooishi's actually probably got a good ability of gathering information from these more passive things like going out to dinner, going out for drinks. The informant, unable to contain himself, clutched his stomach as he guffawed, heedless of the people watching.
Yeah, もう赤坂さんはいちいち察しがいいな。よっ、さすが高学歴。
大石さん、あなたどこかで飲んできましたね。酔っ払ってます。
オフタイムに飲んで何が悪いんですか？あなたは勤務中でも私はオフ。
He's like, but it's so frustrating. Ooishi was the sort of fool around with to begin with, was in such a good mood I couldn't figure out a way to deal with him. Completely different than me, who had come worried about getting every bit of information I could. Man, this guy, like, our investigator, Akasaka, I keep forgetting his name, he's so much like me. I get so preoccupied with doing things right and trying to make sure to follow the rules. Like, I understand sometimes rules don't need to be followed, especially strictly. I understand that, like, they're not the end-all be-all. But when I'm working or people are counting on me or when I feel like I have a responsibility, I take rules very seriously, and probably way too seriously. Ooishi-san. After taking so much money, you're supposed to give me an informant worth at least as much. I thought this, but then realized that I was getting my information from the informant, so it didn't matter how drunk Ooishi was. There was nothing I could complain about, but I still felt slightly riled up. Ooishi and the informant, it was no doubt a fake name, but he introduced himself as Sato, led the way deeper and deeper into the back streets of the market district. Even though the market was bustling, a couple of turns off the main street and you were in a desolate alleyway. Ooishi started to climb a set of stairs into the side of a seedy building. There wasn't any sort of signage, so I couldn't tell if the place was open or if it was even a store at all.
安心してください。怪しい店じゃありませんよ。
Why does that make me immediately assume that it's dubious? Those words coming from Ooishi's mouth had absolutely no credibility. Oh, it's this Mahjong parlor. Beyond the door was thankfully a typical Mahjong parlor. I was relieved that it wasn't the sort of suspicious place I'd been on my guard about.
はい、いらっしゃい。あら、大石さん、お久しぶり。こっち入ります？すぐ開きますよ。
いいえ。今日はセットですからいいです。お、待たせましたね。
I remember we've seen this before as a room where the police are able to speak a bit more freely, like outside of a professional setting. But it basically is like a way to have an impromptu, off-the-books meeting, which is exactly what we're here to do. Mahjong is a game played by 4 people. It seems a middle-aged man who was going to be our 4th had already arrived and was waiting for us.
遅えぞクラウド。俺はもう消えろと思ってたんだから。
Ooishi made an excuse for why we'd taken so long. Eventually, realizing I was a new face, the other man grew interested.
彼は赤坂さん。東京からはるばる出張されてきた将来有望な新人さんです。
坊主、お前麻雀はできんのか？
まあ、学生時代にそこそこに。
It's more than me. Sato and the old man cackled in unison. Their plot to sucker me out of my money was painfully obvious.
緊張続きの出張で疲れておいでだろうと思いましてね。一つ今夜は心の選択でもして差し上げましょうかと思いまして。
Yeah, cleanse my spirit and my wallet.
今更野暮なことを聞きますが、私たち警察官ですよね。
まあそれはいい子なしで。なに、実際にはかけるわけじゃありませんよ。この後いいお店に遊びに行くときに誰が全員分を払うのか決めるだけですって。
Yeah, where on earth are you going? That laugh.
遊びに行く？どんな店に遊びに行くんですか？
Without reservation, the 3 of them started suggesting places like cabarets, high-end class clubs, and even brothels. At the very least, they weren't the type of places you could go without money, and that was just for funsies.
私のお金は先日、大石さんに根こそぎ預けて、支払いは不可能ですし。
じゃあ、坊主が勝てばいいじゃねえかよ。おめえが勝ったら、この雀荘の支払いはなしで、クラウドに仕事の話でも何でもすればいい。
No matter what happened, it seemed like they were intent on playing Mahjong for free. I would have to fasten my resolve a bit. If I was going to be underestimated like this forever, it was going to get in the way of my work.
わかりました。では、少しだけお付き合いします。私が勝ったら、アフターの遊びは一切なしで、すぐに仕事の話に入ってもらいますからね。
いいですとも。
俺が勝ったらフラワーのブルーマーメイドに直行だからね。
おやっさんも好きだな。私はもちろん馴染みの店をはしごしまくりですよ。あっけみちゃん。
Uh-huh. He's even got his favorite.
佐藤さんはどうします？
私は静かに飲めるお店でいいですよ。
静かにバニーさんと。
I'm impressed they have such a selection. Growing up in a smaller town, we didn't have much of a selection for stuff like this, but then again, I don't really know. I was still pretty young when I was last there. I definitely didn't look into this stuff.
この間飲みに行った時、あんたバニーさんの尻尾を引っこ抜いちゃったでしょ。
Oh my gosh.
あれ結局弁償だったの？
マスターに法政代とか言われて一本ドンペリ開けられたな。
Oh, so it gave him like a basic drink and charged a premium price, I'm guessing. What a lively table this was. I could tell the other customers were glaring at us while we loudly continued our crude conversation. Speaking of which, the fact that they all assumed I was the same was a bit disheartening. Ooishi had taken all the money I'd brought, so everything I had was left out of my own pocket. In addition, there wasn't much left of that either. If I kept hanging around him like this, he was goading and my wallet would disappear into the night. I had to somehow win or return the convention to my topic. But these people, no matter how you looked at it, they were pretty good. Sorry, Yuki. Oh my gosh, wait. is the Mahjong game going to be playing the role of like the club games from the other games? That's kind of funny.
そんじゃこれでリーチっと。
Oh, the old man and Sato-san probably won't fall for this silly Richi. I wonder if Akasaka-kun will spit out what I need.
クラウドのリーチなんざどうせこの辺だろ。この辺なら通るだろ。それ。
Oh, the old man's pretty good. He's quietly trying to use one of my safe tiles to complete his hand, isn't he? It seems that Akasaka-kun has at least learned the ropes when it comes to guarding against someone's Richi. But that'll be his downfall.
どうした坊主。サクッと切らねえかい。よくわからなかったらクラウドと同じもんを切ってりゃ安全だぞ。
Oh, Akasaka-kun's really fretting over this one. That was glaringly obvious that he had a safe tile to discard, but he didn't want to throw it away because it would move him further from completing his hand. They're so nice when they're young and innocent. Come on, hurry up and throw out the kicker. He gave me a winning title. He'd heading towards the establishment where I could do all sorts of licking and oh my gosh. If he gives the old man his winning titles, we'll be heading straight to the place of the maids and bloomers.
これは通りますか？
He looked up hesitantly and threw out the tile that was.
おいおい、危ねえパイだぞ。
Sorry. Oh, too bad.
クラウド、通るのか。
いいと。
It seems this time you were lucky. But as long as the round kept going, I could still win off the draw. But after that, Akasaka-kun managed to luckily avoid throwing any bad tiles, and somehow the round managed to end without anybody completing a hand.
天杯。
天杯。
同点。
Sato-san keenly anticipated that two players with the Riki had decided to play it safe. What a cool-headed way of playing. Now let's see what kind of hand did Akasaka-kun have. When the round ends and nobody wins in Mahjong, anybody in 10p has to show their hand. But if you're not in 10p, you have no obligation to reveal it. Your average beginner would normally show their hand even if they weren't in 10p, and start a commotion about how if the child of this tile came up, they would have been in 10p. But he didn't. Being stingy.
どうだって坊主。ちょっと見せてみ。
Sato-san reached over and flipped the hand that Akasaka-kun had casually placed face down.
なんじゃこりゃ。
He has nowhere near Tepe. Was Akasaka-kun totally bad at this after all? Right then, as the old man compared the tiles from Akasaka-kun's hand to the discard tile pool, a puzzled expression crossed his face.
坊主、おめえ、この辺りで張っとるだろ。どうして切った？
マンズの高いあたりが急に高騰しましたので抑えました。大石さんのリーチに対して安全性が高まったのにです。筋でさばけば無難なのにわざわざ抑えた方がいる。
おう、クラウドの天杯など鼻から論外。
相当高度な引っ掛けでなければ私の宝珠を期待したぬるめの手かと思って、それよりもダマで張ったあなたの方がとりあえずは問題でした。
Ah, so he's picking apart their strategies. He's actually pretty good at this.
いつ天杯したのに気づいた？
この辺りですか。ノンタイムで4連続で切ってますよね。初めは食い替えかと思いましたが、私をチラチラ見ていたので期待しているんだと気づきました。
Oh, so maybe you tried to do a fast one on him by offering him what looked like interesting selections, but more so to try and maneuver the types of choices that he would take. Akasaka-kun, you.
赤坂さん、あんた麻雀始めてどのくらい？
When I was 3.
高校から大学くらいまでの間しかやっていませんよ。さあ、続けましょう。佐藤さんは天杯しなかったから流れて、次は私ですね。
Dang, someone who's doing so well, but like, I mean, he's out of town, so maybe he's got his own stuff going on, but like, it's just like, it's impressive to see, like, I need to know more about this game. Like, I've had chances to try and even learn the basics of it through the Yakuza games, but I got so bored trying to learn it.
Oh yeah.
It seems like Akasaka-kun is really aware of how the game flows. We thought we were just going to eat him alive, but it looks like that isn't going to be so easy. Good. Let me have my breathing room. Oh my gosh, look at that.
想図が濃すいですね。
Look at him. He looks so serious.
回しますか。
この坊主クラウド降りるな。
あと3ついい牌が来ればな。佐藤さんはうまくいきそうです。
くそ食いたんで引きずり下ろすか。
So yeah, I guess they're doing a like a Hail Mary kind of thing, like a Kingmaker, I guess you would call it. Someone decides, hey, I don't think I've got what it takes to win, but I can sabotage some people or boost other people to try and make the ending more interesting.
チだ。
C ですか。じゃあすみません。それポンです。
Whoa, now calling a 3 of a kind after he declared a straight? Trying to override and interfere.
坊主おめえ離れしとるな。
まさか私が生まれる前から打ってるような方々とは比べようもないですよ。
What a kind way to tell them how old they are.
あ、それです。どうも。トイトイ赤赤ドラさん。
Oh my gosh.
親ですからね。ちょっぴり高いですよ。
くわ
赤坂さんやるな。これは我々も本気を出さないとねえ。
本気のついでに展望も出してもらいましょうかね。
Yeah.
私は眠いんで手っ取り早く終わらせます。
I'm tired and growing bored. Let's just end this now. Akasaka-kun? This is somehow unreal. Nahaha. Before I could realize it, there was an ominous cold air emanating from beneath Akasaka-kun's feet. Oh my
ぬるいで
gosh.
すね。
He's gone crazy.
マンズのリャンウーパーが笑ってませんか。
くしょう坊主てめえクラウドおめえ差し込め。坊主の親とっととおろすだ。
悔しいですがどうやらそうした方が賢明なようですね。
出たローだ。太陽ドラ1。
すみませんね。頭っぱなです。
What is a head bump?
どうピンフ。
頭っぱねだ。小僧のくせに。
小僧が相手だとじゃああんたその小僧
Oh, calling him out. He's like, if I'm a brat and you're playing this poorly, then you must have lost your marbles.
面白いな。あんたら連中は決まって小僧だ坊主だっていう。
He's just fully calling them out.
赤坂くんですよね。
He's like, who are you?
なんでかムードが変わりまくりなんですね。
Yeah, now he's possessed.
私をかもって今晩はいいお酒を飲むおつもりだったんでしょうが
Oh,
どうやら皆さんの当ては外れそうです。の単品3色赤1ドラ1。
おお張ってやがったか。
だからあんたぬるいよ。いくらダマだからってこんなにぬるい3面なんだから
ah.
読んでくれなくっちゃ。
Akasaka-kun chuckled as he rested his chin on his hands. That pose was so fitting, it was almost scary.
おいクラウド話がちげえぞ。初々しいカモがネギ背負ってきたって言ったのは誰だ。
いや誰でしょう。
おいさまずいよ。
And you can't just like say, oh, maybe I got the wrong person, or maybe it's the wrong apartment. It's like, no, I mean, it's pretty clear. You got the right guy. You just had a completely dismissive opinion of him.
このままじゃ負けるよマジで。
Akasaka-kun, for you to make me get serious, looks like you really want to be milked dry. Oh, hell, watch how you phrase.
ポンポン気前がいいですね。もう一回ポンです。
Akasaka-kun is almost singing at this point. The tiles he's opened up with are all pin tiles. You can't be serious. Are you really gonna go for the flush?
ポン
坊主 正気か ?4 つも晒したら、おめえパイが1つだけじゃねえかよ。
そうですね。知ってます？短期待ちって一番読まれにくいらしいですよ。
バカかてめえ。そこまで染めて晒しといて、今更出ると思うんじゃね
読めてますよ、赤坂さん。
あ
それ、均一でも本一でもないんでしょう。4つポンした時点でトイトイは成立してますからね。あんた今、絶好の単独トップ。
Oh, is he reading this because I don't know how this gets works. Like there's clearly like tiles that are your hands and they represent different things. And then you play them in different combinations like a poker hand. But it's like you also draw to replace cards a lot. I feel like I've played a game that plays very similarly to this. Huh. An all triplet hand? Could that mean you could have like 3 cards of a kind, 3 cards of a kind, and 3 of a kind, like all in one hand?
こいつは均一と見せかけてトイトイで食おうという挑発手でしょう。
Yeah, I guess not. I don't know.
そう思うならピンズ切ってみ。大石さんの牌の左5つ、さっきから切り損ねてるピンズですよね。それを端から順に切ってみたらいいんじゃないですか？
You must be joking. Is he a Mahjong god? If not, he'd have to be the main character of a manga or something. At that moment, the old man sent me a sign under the table. The message was simple and clear.
クラウドやれ叩きつぶせ
Crush him!
こんな若い子に様は好きじゃないんですがね。
あうここまで舐められて今さら引けるか。
もう知りませんよ。
You're gonna cheat?
ではどうぞ。
行くぞ坊主。リーチだ。オープンで行くぞ。ピンズの一数値待ちだ。
Most likely, the tiles that Akasaka-kun was waiting for was one of those tiles. With this, Akasaka-kun was no longer capable of winning the hand. When I drew from the well, I switched out the tile that Akasaka-kun would draw. The tile I put in was a 1-pin. One of the tiles that the old man was waiting on. Akasaka-kun discarded it a little while ago, so there's no threat of it being the one he needed. You say that?
おい、坊主の番だぜ。
Huh. I knew he was troubled that the tile he drew was a 1-pin. Of course, he couldn't discard it.
坊主、分かってると思うが、オープンリーチに振り込んだら、100万払いだぜ。
言われるまでもありませんよ。
The tile that came from Akasaka-kun's hand was an honor tile. Whew, ain't that something? There's only one north wind tile left, isn't there? You were counting on a really rough wait, weren't you? But with this, Akasaka-kun's fate was decided.
カズ、命拾いしたな。だが、手配は1名だ。逃げきれなくなることもあるんじゃねえのか
Oh,
やっぱりそういうことか。
Akasaka-kun glared at the old man with discerning eyes. This guy had pretty good instincts. Did he figure out we were cheating?
やめましょうよ、やっさん。赤坂君の方が2、3枚は上手です。
バル、ここまで来てやめられるか。次行け、使わせちまえ。
The next tile Akasaka-kun would draw was a 7-pin. With that, he would be settled. No matter what one you discarded, he'd play right into the old man's hands. Oh! An unfavorable payout. Full payout. When I drew my tile, I sneakily swapped Akasaka-kan's. Crash. What? Akasaka-kun suddenly sneezed and collapsed to the wall of his tiles in front of him.
おいおい、何やってんだ。
すみません。ついくしゃみをした拍子に山を崩しちゃって、バップ払いですね。親だから4000オールですか？それとも、バップは積み棒に？
It's like he knew they were gonna cheat, and he took control of the game board. Unable to hold back, I guffawed. Akasaka-kun, knowing he was going to be cornered a second time and unable to escape, he took a drastic measure of knocking over his own wall.
やるな、坊主。 役満払いをそういう手で防ぐとはな。ガッハッハッハッ。
Dang. Pretty cool.
大石さんもそんな見え見えの積み込みは勘弁してください。これが馬場なら今ので卓をひっくり返してたところですよ。
いえいえいえいえいえいえ、すみませんすみません。あなたを侮っていましたよ。あなたどうしてお強いじゃないですか。
I mean, there's only so many answers it could be why. Number one being he's practiced.
正直に話さんかい。若い頃はだいぶ慣らしたんだろ。
早稲田高田の馬場あたりでだいぶ遊ばせてもらいました。ちょっと勝ちまくりすぎて馴染みの店に出禁を食らいまして、今の家内にだいぶ怒られて足を洗ったんです。
勝ちまくりすぎて。あんた当時はどのくらいの勝率でやってたの？
メンツにもよりましたが、歌舞伎町あたりで打つときはほぼ負けなしでした。特に相手があれ系の人の時は命かかってましたからね。
What does that even mean? Your life was on the line. 20 times? What kind of stakes were those? Did you have Yakuza at your table? Or pro baseball players?
なんだクラウド、このタク。お前どっからこんなプロ雀士みたいなの引っ張ってきたんだ。もうやめだやめ。ああもう坊主、おめえの勝ちだ。降参。
ありがとうございます。光栄です。
Yeah, I got money in the bank to go home with.
いやいや、しかし赤坂さん、あんた打つと性格変わるね。なんで就職なんかしたの？あんたならフリーで十分に飯食っていけるじゃない。
プロ雀士には腕と突きの両方が必要なんですよ。
True.
私には後者がありませんでしたから。
好きなんてその時の運不運だろ。あんたほどの腕があれば十分にいけると思うがな。
波の突きじゃダメなんですよ。勘したら3回に1回くらいはそのままカンドラが4つ乗ってここぞという時に狙ってリンシャンが引ける。
Oh, this is just going to go right over my head.
そのくらいじゃないと。
赤坂君、そんなのが頻繁にできたら。
いえ、イカ様でも超能力でもなく、そのくらいの打ち手は結構いるんですよ。新宿で知り合った泣くたびにドラが乗りまくる雀士なんか鬼のように強かったですし、横浜で打ったプロなんかは当たり前のように一発で引き当ててましたからね。
Yokohama, huh?
私にはああいう月がないんです。
Whoa, what type of folks were those? They weren't named Ryu and Satoshi by any chance.
というわけで総合トップは私でよろしいですね。
Ryu and Satoshi. Like, is that like our Satoshi? Or is that a different one?
へいへいへい。
Hey, 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 hey.
乾杯でございますよ。
負けた久しぶりに大負けだ。
しかし打ってる時の坊主気合入ってたな。結構怖かったね。
Good.
よく言われます。自分ではそんなに目つき変えてるつもりはないんですがね。そんなに怖い目になってましたか？
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah. Three of us nodded emphatically in agreement. So that was like Akasaka-kun, the Mahjong prodigy. Before he goes home from his assignment, maybe I could get him to go play a high-stakes table at my place. But it's not good enough to get ready. But it's not good enough to get greedy. Ho ho ho.
じゃあ仕方ないや。約束です。夜の学習会はこれでお開きにしましょう。
Okay, so gonna take a quick breather. From your end, it should be fine, but on my end, I am struggling. So I've got a kind of a wombo combo going on here. I caught the flu. I kind of picked a time to try and do this when I wasn't feeling too bad, but it's kind of creeping in on me again. And thankfully, it hasn't hit my throat too hard, but I do occasionally just hack and cough and sneeze like crazy. I took preventative medicine to try and help smother it a bit while I was recording, but I am getting wiped out here. I'm sure you can tell. So instead of just passing out while I'm recording, I'm gonna stop here, pick it up back up as soon as I get a breather, but we'll come back. I should make sure this episode's pretty long because we've been going for a bit already, but like there's clearly some more stuff to cover around the corner. We gotta actually see this meeting with the informant, so I hope you'll look forward to that. But yeah, what am I doing? I'm not going anywhere from your perspective. From my end, I'm gone, so I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. I took a bit of a break, aka a day's passed. I got some more sleep. Hopefully I'll hold out a little longer this time. All right, let's jump into it. All right, so we passed the initial test, right? Of like the vibe check.
申し訳ありませんね、おやっさん。今夜はこれでお開きです。
しゃあねえな。冷えて寝るわ。体力つけんと体が持たん。
お仕事が大変なんですか？
ああ、おやっさんはひなみ沢ダムの第一工区の監督さんなんです。
Oh my gosh, he's the guy who gets dismembered. Holy crap, we just would sit here playing the game with that dude.
住民とは連日小競り合いをしてますからね。しんどい商売ですよ。
In fact, there's a good chance we're gonna be here when this happens. In fact, the whole dismemberment thing is probably just about to happen, actually. That's gonna, like, we're gonna be here for that, aren't we?
来年あたり第二工区も任されちまうかもしれねえな。黒田さん、血圧上がりまくりって聞いたしよ。身が持たねえや。
おやっさんなら大丈夫でしょう。あなた、見た目よりも面の皮厚めですしね。
俺だって仏じゃねえからな。腹渡にいくり返る時あるぞ。特にその先のあの小娘は我慢がならん。
Oh my gosh, he makes a direct reference to Mion.
あいつの顔面、いつか簡単には治らんくらいに歪ませたろって思ってる。
Dang.
まあまあまあ。
Yeah, that's a pretty violent talk about a kid.
でも給料はいいんでしょ？かなり破格の給金だって聞きましたよ。
おっとりめえだ。あんなに世知辛い職場で給料が安かったら誰も残らんよ。
I imagine so, with all the abuse they fling at you.
あ、クラウド。警察はいつになったら村の人間全部追っ払ってくれるんだ。国から立ち退き命令とか出てるんだろ？
ねえ、どうなってるんでしょうね。
The old man who identified himself as the foreman of the Himasawa Dam spewed a few complaints until he felt better about it, then left quietly.
じゃ、行きましょう。あとは佐藤さんに任せますかね。
大石さんは帰られるんですか？
私が一緒でもお邪魔しちゃうだけでしょ。それに佐藤さんの仕事を買ったのはあなたです。
Oh.
私は対価を払ってませんからね。
Ooishi-san was kind of sketchy, but he was strangely conscientious about some things. I felt quite a bit of a gap between myself and Ooishi's generation from that part of him I didn't comprehend.
じゃあ坊主。いや、ジャンシ様にもう坊主なんて言えねえな。
Yeah, he's Mr. Mahjong here.
赤坂くんでよかったっけ？
はい。
じゃあ赤坂くん、行こうか。
では赤坂さん、また何か困ったことがあったらいつでも頼りに来てくださいね。
All right.
大石さんにお支払いできるような対価はもう持ってませんよ。
んじゃ、今度の勝負で少し手加減してもらえたらチャラにしますよ。
Ooishi seemingly still not having had his fill of playing around, but without overstaying his welcome, disappeared into the night. Was I really that close to the end? That's not the end of the chapter, is it? Like, we're doing another scene change? Yeah, okay. I was about to say, I was like, gosh darn it. The informant named Sato-san had me get into his car before we set off. He favored narrow roads and made numerous short left turns.
左折法による尾行確認ですか？
詳しいな。
I mean, making lots of the same types of turns is just really uncommon, unusual, which is why you would do something like that if you want to see if you're being followed, because basically you're going in a circle. Anyone who has somewhere to go is not going to be going in a circle usually. They'd have to be very lost or they're following somebody. So by going purposefully in a circle, even if it's not a clear one. Because, like, you can do a tight circle in, like, you know, gridlocked-based towns or whatnot, but if you know your way well enough to do, like, a roundabout circle where you kind of meander, but you are ultimately going back to this place you started, it wouldn't make sense for someone to follow you all that way. Checking to see if you're being tailed by a mark by making left turns was a rather classic technique. If it was just a single pursuer, you could confirm it that way. But if you were being tailed as a team, this archaic method wouldn't let you shake them. Of course, doing it anyway was better than not.
Akasaka 君が何者かは旦那から何も聞いてないんだが、やっぱり警察関係かい？尾行確認に詳しいなんて、あとは探偵者くらいしか思いつかねえね。
I'd be like, the private detective's probably closer. It's not, but I would say that.
言わなければならないものでないなら拒否したい質問ですね。
やれやれ。麻雀やってからすっかり雰囲気が大人びちまったな。会った時のあのおどおどしたあんたはどこ行っちゃったんだよ。
I smiled wryly. Looking back now, I had to be a little grateful for being made to play Mahjong. Thanks to that, I was able to relieve some tension. Eventually, Sato-san, confirming that there were no cars following us, slipped outside the city. We were on a pitch-black country road, unable to see anything beside the lights outside. The only thing I was able to hear was the hum of the car's air conditioning and the chirping of insects and frogs.
旦那からひなみ沢村については多少のことは聞いてんだろ？
Oh boy.
御三家という旧家による支配や、現在は園崎家が一党独裁をしているとか、そういう話ですか？
そこまで知ってるならくだらない前置きは省略していいな。
Gotcha.
ではお願いします。犬飼大臣の孫の誘拐に鬼ヶ淵主導名が関与しているか否かを。
Wow, just going straight to it. Sato-san checked the rearview mirror once more time to confirm there wasn't anybody behind us before speaking.
昨夜園崎本家で親族会議が開かれたそうだ。
Uh-huh.
親族会議ってのは旦那から聞いてるか？
いえ。
普通に親族会議って言ったらまあ親戚が集まってお茶でも飲むようなもんだよな。だが園崎本家の親族会議っていうのはそんなのんびりしたものってわけが違う。
Yeah, that's like Onagafuchi type. Like not sorry, not Onagafuchi. That's the name of the town. Watsunagashi selection committee type stuff. A family council held by the Sonozaki main house. That would be a meeting between those who truly controlled Himazawa village. They wouldn't be talking about private family matters. It'd be about the village as a whole. About organizing activities against the dam project. Among other things. Everything would be decided there. In reality, they were deciding the fate of the village. At the head of the meeting was Oryo Sonozaki. More or less called Empress Sonozaki, as the ultimate decision maker of the clan, she was to be feared and respected. Infirm with old age, she was often unable to stand on her own, but her words carried enough weight to sway the fate of the village. It seemed that lately she'd grown weak, and on days where she wasn't feeling well, remained bedridden. Family councils that occurred while she wasn't feeling well took place with her on the floor. In the middle of the dignified Japanese-style room, she's still in a futon, only the upper half of her body sitting upright, a stern look on her face. That was Oryo Sonozaki. Sitting next to her was her heir, Mion Sonozaki. Aw, she's so cute. She was still young. No, young wasn't quite the right word. She was a girl who'd remained childless. Her role was merely to sit beside Oryo Sonozaki, sometimes responding to her requests. However, she was the only one deemed worthy to succeed Oryo. She had the same hawkish eyes, enough to give pause to anyone who so much as looked at them. Much was expected of her in the future, this granddaughter of the Sonozaki's leader. And also on the other side of her sat several other important members of the remaining three families, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. First on the list of the Kimiyoshi family was of course the mayor of Hinamizawa village, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi. And lined up beside him were several more of his direct relatives. Opposite them sat the other three families, the Furude family. The Furude family was only comprised of the family of the Shinto priest, so the only one sitting there was the head priest, his wife, and their daughter Rika. Rika was doted on by many of the older folks in the village, and it seemed that Oryo was no exception. While the stress from just attending a family council was said to be enough to shorten your lifespan by 3 days, it seemed like Rika was the only one exempt from that. No matter how charged the atmosphere was around her, she paid it no mind, instead humming along as she doodled in a sketchbook. In fact, the night before, lying on her stomach while humming and doodling, she nonchalantly tucked her legs into Oryu's futon like it was a kotatsu. Kotatsu. Kotatsu is the table that has like the blanket, the covers, and it has like heating underneath. Which I've always wondered, how big of a fire risk is that? All this was the three families. And all around the room, lined row upon row, were relatives of the Sonozaki family. The only ones that were afforded cushions to sit on were direct relatives. The others were left to sit on the in a seiza position directly on the tatami mats. With Emperor Sonozaki enshrined at their center, it was almost like a giant snake coiled around the room. It was decided that everyone would sit in order of their rank. The number of people from the Sonozaki family was overwhelming. The fact that the Sonozaki family held so many seats at the meeting where everything pertaining to the village was decided made determining what the balance of power was held in the three families as clear as day. The number of members in attendance from each of the families directly reflected how much influence they had in ruling Hinamizawa.
その会議で何が話されたんですか?
Sato-san, after remaining silent for a while, quietly began to speak. Alright, Sato.
マスコミ関係に支払ってる謝礼金の額が大きいんじゃないかい?
Breaking the long moment of silence was the head of the Kimiyoshi family, Kichiro Kimiyoshi. The Onagafuchi Guardians wasn't a business. They were nothing more than a private organization pushing for the cancellation of the Hinamizawa Dam project with no reliable source of income. Fundraising had always been a problem. When they first started operating, they'd managed to collect a sizable amount of funds through donations, but as the conflict dragged on, that amount was steadily declining.
石を投げるだけが全ての時代じゃないさ。マスコミの力も侮れないのは重々承知しているし、今後もその力を借りたいのは同じさ。
The expressions of the people related to the Sonozaki family were sullen. As the one who suggested that they should borrow that power was the family head, Oryo Sonozaki. The battle wasn't just about force of arms. In this civilized age, there were civilized methods of fighting. Oryo suggested that, creating a strategy incorporating the mass media. Oryo's foresight was spot on, and the effects of that plan, while at first unclear, slowly began to manifest. If the physical confrontation at the construction site was meant to delay progress on the dam even by one day, then the propaganda war using the media was aimed at attacking the dam project itself. At first there were those who had doubts about this strategy, but there's nobody now who could call those results into question. But in order to maintain those media ties, a colossal amount of money was required. As long as the amount of funds they had was abundant, things would turn out fine. It couldn't be argued that there was a massive expense, but the results spoke for themselves. It's almost like any legal battle, right? It's like, usually, your money can get you really far. So if you have enough money, you can kind of just brute force your way through stuff you even, like, should not be able to control. Or, like, cases where you are definitely guilty, but you want to get a lighter sentence. Like, it's crazy. But with the conflict continuing to drag on, the circumstances had changed. The head of the Sonozaki family, no, the one who sat at the pinnacle of the Hinamizawa three families, Oryu, had suggested the idea herself, so it was already untouchable and continued to be allowed to drain from the budget. Nobody acknowledged that it should be so allowed, but nobody could say anything. That was the price of dealing with the mass media. The only person who could object to the plan proposed by the head of the Sonozaki household herself was probably Mayor Kimiyoshi. Oryu, with a hard-to-define expression on her face, as if she'd severed herself from the fetters of mortal emotion, simply listened quietly to Kimiyoshi's words. But really, it was hard to tell if she was quietly listening or didn't even have the intention of listening at all.
去年機関士の値上げの理解を得るのにも随分苦労したじゃない。一度だけってことで理解を得て、また今年もってわけにはいかないよ。ねえ、古手さん。
The mayor looked at the priest and his wife and the Fruidae family for affirmation. The priest gave a vague expression, avoiding a prompt response. But his wife gave her answer without a second thought.
そうですね。機関士代は特に貧しい家には大きな負担になっています。
Rika's mom, so we don't even get her actual name.
みんな自分たちの村のためだからと耐えていますが、これ以上の値上げはやめた方がいいでしょうね。
The bulletin was, and as its name implied, a bulletin published by the Onagafuchi Guardians. It outlined the Alliance's activities, ideals, and resolve, but you couldn't deny the contents were rather piecemeal. The bulletin's main goal wasn't to inform people, but rather to something to sell the businesses and let people living in the village or connected to it, and using those sales to collect funds. In other words, it had become something of a tax. And of course, it didn't have to be said that this was one of the many sources of income for the Onagafuchi Guardians. Originally, purchase was supposed to be voluntary, but in Hinamizawa it had silently become the opposite. In the neighboring towns as well, it seemed that many businesses were buying copies just to avoid butting heads with the Alliance. It really is starting to feel like a Yakuza now. The priest whispered to his wife to not say anything unnecessary, but was struck down decidedly with a cold glare. Cowering from that glance, the priest shut his mouth. The priest's wife always held that power in their relationship. That was because she was the one who carried the Furude bloodline. The priest merely married into the family. He was nothing more than somebody who adopted the name just to join the three families. He should have been able to find a spot fairly high up in the hierarchy of things, but the lack of authority in his voice meant that he had still not gained any favor. Casting a backward glance at her rather desperate parents, Rika continued to doodle whimsically without paying them any mind. Signaled by the look from Oryu, Mion brought her ear close to her grandmother. There, something was said to her in a quiet voice. After responding with a couple questions and a nod from Oryu, Mion looked around the room and conveyed her grandmother's words. Himeyoshi made a face like he'd been bitten to something unpleasant, but that expression quickly disappeared like it never happened at all.
だけどミオンちゃん、君だって分かってると思うけど、機関士の負担は決して軽いものじゃない。ひなみ沢の全ての人間にかかる重みなんだ。あんまり負担をかけすぎれば内部から崩れることだって。
内部から崩れるのは誰ですか？
どれって別にそういう意味じゃ。
最初に崩れるのは誰かと聞いています。
Being cross-examined by a girl who still had fragments of childishness remaining within her, the word struck Kimiyoshi's throat when he sunk into silence. Mion repeated her question once more, looking around the crowded room. Everybody refrained from making eye contact to avoid being pierced by her gaze. The words she had spoken were unarguably said in proxy for Oryu. That's why when Mion spoke them, they carried the same weight. But the look in her eyes was different. Like Oryu's, they had a hawkish gaze, strong enough that anybody looking upon them would freeze in their tracks and yield. But that gaze was without question, one that belonged to Mion herself. As Mion would eventually inherit everything from Oryu, the day when she would stand up as a young and capable leader in her own right would come. Nobody wanted to believe otherwise for even a minute. That's why nobody even thought of Mion as just some little kid.
Kimiyoshi-san, 機関士の値上げごときでは誰の決意も崩れませんよ。
That's a bold statement to make. Kimiyoshi, while grumbling a little bit, made a gesture as if to say he had no objection.
マスコミ関係への出費は継続とします。その出費がさらに圧迫となるようなら、機関士の値上げもやむを得ない。
Mion had rendered her judgment. Everybody bowed their heads, silently listening to her words.
園崎家当主代行、園崎ミオンです。我が名において以上決定し、決定の効力は即日発行されるものとします。異議はこれを認めず、抵抗ある場合は実力をもって排除します。
Holy dictatorship here. It's like, you will not object, and if you do, you'll be forcibly removed. The formal decree was read aloud, indicating her judgment. There would be no retrial, but there was certain authority behind those words, and even the courthouse couldn't compare to. If she was the judge, she would have banged her gavel, signaling the end of the matter was settled. Mion pulled out a large bell from inside her clothes and rang it. Ooh, that's the bell we were hearing in last chapter whenever the curse was activated. Everybody present could only prostrate themselves before the harsh sound of the bell.
なんとも大時代的な親族会議ですね。
あんたみたいな若いもんにはちょっと信じられないだろうけどね。こういう古い土地にはこんなのが未だ根強く残ってるもんさ。
It was exactly as Ooishi had said. The old system of the three families had vanished, and now the Sonozaki family is running things by themselves. On top of that, their rule is borderline despotic.
会議はそれで終わりですか？
Yeah, despotic, by the way, like it's a phrase that you don't hear very often, but it's referencing the root word of despot, which is basically like a dictatorship. But one ruled out of by fear, like usually fear of armies, fear of physical trauma, fear of being removed from your place. Yeah, that sounds like the Sonozaki's.
いや、まだ続く。先を続けるよ。
Alright. Eventually, after the ringing of the bell ceased, there was a deafening silence. Within all of that, a lone man shuffled closer to Mion and whispered something in her ear. Mion asked several questions quietly in response. When she was satisfied, she motioned for the man to leave. The man who talked to Mion was a member of the gang that her father was the leader of. That organization had the entire area of Shishobon City under its control, so it was quite well known even here. Of course, this was talking about the criminal underworld, so it's not like just anybody would know. But just showing a patch with a gang symbol on it was enough to resolve any disputes in the neighborhood. Mion's biological father, Oryu, was her daughter's husband. The power of that man's gang was driving force that controlled the dark underbelly of the Onagafuchi Guardians. And so that man, from his position as the next in line control of the three families, continued to coerce everybody around him with his unconventional presence. Mion exchanged a look with her father. Was it okay for her to tell what she just heard directly from Oryu? It looked like she was asking him that question. Her father gently but firmly nodded his response. Mion also nodded, then sidled up to Oryu and informed her of something. Eventually, Mion finished conveying her message, separating herself from Oryu, and fixed her posture, waiting for Oryu to signal her response. It wasn't often that Oryu showed any emotion. That's why, when she started to laugh quietly, a vague sense of unease crept over everyone in the room. Oryu was laughing so happily that Kimiyoshi had to hesitantly ask.
どうしたんだい、お嬢さん。
我らにとって土地が母なら、この度のダムの騒ぎは、母の命を脅かされる騒ぎっちゅうことだろうな。
Is that gonna be her justification for like the kidnapping? Is it like, well, they're threatening our family? Kimiyoshi, unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, looked confused. Oryu, with a white grin on her face, turned toward everyone and addressed them in a clarion voice.
ダムの親玉の大臣がの、孫さらわれちまって、右往左往しとるっちゅう話だ。
See, that's the problem here. They know about that, and the police have been doing very careful work to try and keep it, like, obscured.
これでおあいこだの。
Oh, there we have it. Information on the kidnapping of the minister, Inokai's grandson, shouldn't have leaked from anywhere. How did they know? Even we didn't know much about the kidnapping incident. Exactly how did an antiquated household so far away from Tokyo come to know of it? It was a tranquil place, but I couldn't help but have an uneasy feeling about Hinamizawa village. Oh boy, you don't even know. At some point, I had mentally filed this place away as unrelated to the incident at hand. That mental paperwork had just blown away in the wind.
どうして鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が知っているんだ。
Sato-san, unable to come up with an answer, fell into silence.
すみません。続きをお願いします。
なあ。
犬飼建設大臣のお孫さんがさらわれた。お嬢さん、それは本当かい？
The mayor of the incident was nowhere to be seen in the newspapers or on TV. But in Hinamizawa, there's nothing strange about Oryu knowing something the rest of the world didn't.
我らの痛みは母を失う痛みじゃの。それに値するとは思わんが、孫を失う痛み。少しは答えるといいんじゃがの。なあ。
The last question wasn't addressed to anybody in particular. It was as if she was looking for consensus.
だが、土地と人様の子供ではわけが違う。
Yeah.
隠すのは構わんが、怪我だけはさせたくないものだな。
Well, that's interesting and also good because like the thing is like a kidnapping to put pressure on like the guy can easily backfire if that kid dies, or even comes into severe harm. It can really flip the script quickly.
こりゃ何の罪もねえ。大事にしたれな。
Interesting. The child isn't to blame, but the problem is too, like, if you think about it, that immediately makes me think about, like, in the first, like, chapter, right? Like, Keiichi was not to blame for anything that was going on, and yet he got hunted down and destroyed.
それはつまり鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が
必ずしもそうとは言えねえな。
I mean, it sounds pretty indicative.
どうして当主であるお涼がこれほどまではっきりと誘拐した孫の処遇について指示を出しているのに。
兄さん、これはね、園崎家のいつものことなんだよ。
いつものこと？
Huh.
それはどういう意味です？
Let's say there was a particular problem, one that wasn't exactly favorable for the Sonozaki family. Or Oryu shows concern over that particular problem. Hearing that, somebody who attended the family council would be helpful. As a result, Oryu's wish would be granted. However, neither Oryu nor anyone else would know who actually did it. With this kind of clever little ploy, the Sonozaki family was able to manipulate events even though they had their hands laid out on the table. I see, I see.
では親族会議に出席していた誰かが犯人ということですか？
It's her way of having a behind closed doors conversation without actually having to be behind closed doors.
あるいはそもそも犯人なんかいない可能性だってあるよな。俺自身、その万座の一同の中に誘拐犯がいるって確信を持ってるわけじゃない。
But the evidence is pretty compelling.
ただ、自分の意見を述べただけさ。
It was an odd and unpleasantly secretive way of doing things. Were they involved or weren't they? I couldn't see beyond the veil. This much, however, I could say with certainty. This kidnapping was an ironclad secret. No matter how high a position somebody was in, even they wouldn't know about it. If there was somebody who would know about it, it would be connected to public safety. In other words, one of us. The only other options were people connected to the case itself. Including the minister, there would be people affected by the incident, or the people that committed it. In any case, there was no way an old household in a place removed from Tokyo by over 6 hours of highway travel should know about it. Them knowing at all was already strange. My suspicions began to accumulate. Like falling snow. I do think it is interesting to point out, it's trying to kind of put the brakes on. Like, we are pretty confident that they're involved, right? Like, but that's a lot of our bias from the other chapters coming into play. So I will throw out this. It is very clearly stating how if somebody just has informants in the right circles, they could learn this information. It'd be very, very unlikely, but it's possible. And we know the Sonozakis have people in politics and probably law enforcement in a lot of different places. So it's not too unreasonable to think that there might be a Sonozaki who's tied closely enough to the department that's overseeing this investigation to have heard what happened and could pass it on to the family. So we can't just be like immediately condemn, like, let's raid all their houses finding this kid. It's like, no, there is a legitimate like case to be made to say, like, look, we need to get more evidence before we can move on this.
孫の誘拐についてお涼が述べたのはここまでだ。あんたの知りたかったことが含まれてりゃいいんだな。
I mean, that's definitely a lot more than we could have had normally.
あとは兄ちゃんの仕事だな。何のお仕事やってるか知らんけど、園崎家を相手にするなら相当の覚悟でやっとけよ。
Yeah, but
大石の旦那は怖いもの知らずだけどな。
Oh,
あれでも
crap.
2、3回は襲われてる。
That's a surprise. I didn't realize he'd been attacked before.
最近は来てないけど、一時はオフの時も防塵ベストを着込んでたんだよな。
Dang.
忠告ありがとうございます。
標準語が流暢だよな。兄さんは東京とかの人？
え？それが何か？
Investigators were always close to danger. It was the best not to divulge any information on myself.
兄さんのお仕事だけどさ、ひょっとして警視庁の公安部の人ってことある？
Yeah, he nailed that pretty quickly. Couldn't remain silent here. It would be the same thing as admitting it.
まさか。
こっから旦那からもらった金の範囲には入らないんだが、兄さんとは今日宅を囲んだ仲間だからな。 サービスってことで話してやるよ。
Mm-hmm.
お寮から誘拐の話が出た後。
Oh no, was it you?
話題が出たんだ。
Oh, fetch! Another topic that Oyu brought up. Right before he told me this, Sato-san asked if I was from the Metropolitan Public Safety Division. In other words, are those two things meant to cause a chill to run up my spine? Because it's working!
そんででな、大臣の孫さらったのを調べるために東京からはるばる公安の捜査官が派遣されてくるっちゅう話だ。
They definitely have somebody on the inside. Oh no.
公安の捜査官。
大臣の孫の誘拐な。うかつにゃ大ごとにできゃんってことで。
So there's a good chance they already know or have a good idea of exactly who he is.
警視庁の公安部が独自で調べとるっちゅう話だ。はっ、大行なこったの。ん？どうした？
Rika, who had been drawing the entire time, was completely uninterested in the conversation up until now, looking at Oryu with an interested face as soon as the topic of public safety came out.
警視庁が来たのですか？
リカちゃまは警視庁も知ってなさるんかい。偉いの。
誰が来たのですか？
公安のどんな奴が来よったんか。誰ぞわかる奴はおらんかいな。
Oh no. Mion's father raised a hand slightly.
新米の若造が一人と聞き及んでおります。
Oh no.
新米？ほかほかなのですか？
ん？ええ、はい、新米とか。
Mion's father smiled wryly as he answered Rika's question.
ほかほかのふっかふか？
ええ。
ほかほかのふっかふか？
Rika smiled with interest. Why did Rika suddenly act interested only when it came to this topic? That was a question that apparently nobody had any answer to.
リカちゃまはその男のこと何か知っているのかな？
Oh, serious face again.
知んないのですよ。
After her rather flat reply, Rika buried herself underneath Oryu's futon again. But when she buried herself there, Rika no longer started drawing again. Instead, she was making an expression like she was deep in contemplation.
どうしますか、お母さん。
Mion's father posed the question. He had the type of uncouth expression on his face, indicating that, given the order, he could snuff the problem out at any time.
はるばるひなみ沢まで来よった。しばらくはのんびりさせてやるのもよかろう。
Oh my gosh.
泳がせろということでしょうか。
Mion's father asked her response. Oryu smiled thinly as she responded.
ほっといたれな。が、あんまりおいたが過ぎるようやった。そん時は遠慮せんとな。
Oh my gosh, she's just put a hit on us.
なめられるのはすっきゃせんね。
In fact, the fact that he's telling us this, I wonder if he intentionally, like, is actually representing the family. So he's being an informant, but what if he's also, like, here as a messenger to be like, back off.
なんて話があったそうだ。まさかあんた、その警視庁の新米じゃないよな。
まさか。
A sensation of cold, bristling fear began to crawl its way up my back. This family council took place last night. In other words, yesterday. Then today, when I was dressed up as a tourist heading towards Inazawa, my cover was already blown? When I remembered the first person I met when I got at the bus stop, I couldn't breathe. Yeah. It's Rika. And also think about the fact that I remember on the bus, right? They dropped him off at the tourist destination, and then suddenly all the people on the bus stared at him with the death eyes. Oh no, it's because they know. The person at the family council expressed interest in the man being dispatched from the Metropolitan Police, Rika Furude. And then the person who was waiting for me the whole time in the bus shelter, Rika Furude. It was an unthinkable image. No, it was a delusion. When we first met the bus shelter, did Rika-chan already know my true identity? Did she know I was Akasaka, who dispatched from the Metropolitan Police Department and come to meet me? Then including Mayor Kimiyoshi, every villager I met, everybody knew but just pretended not to. Because Oryu had given instruction not to interfere. Thinking about it logically, it didn't seem possible. I met quite a number of people. If there's people who are good at acting, then there's people who are bad at hiding things. If there was that many people, then there should have been somebody among them who knew I was from the public safety and couldn't hide their hostility. Think about everyone on the freaking bus! However, I didn't feel any presence like that. But then, even still, why did Oryu tell them to leave me alone? Was it because if they were careless about it, it would only raise more suspicion? Or was it because they believed a rookie like me wouldn't be able to find anything? Akasaka is a coward. I recalled that strange voice within that could only make me believe that Rika-chan had been possessed. That unknown entity, no matter how you looked at it, knew my true identity from the get-go. And then, how did it warn me again? That's right. It warned me to hurry up and go back to Tokyo. Fetch me, they know! Instead of the realistic worry that Onagafuchi Guardians had discovered my identity, the absurd worry brought about by an unknown girl struck with me more. What exactly was that girl? And what was that thing that I would eventually regret? What was the thing I would eventually regret? The mysterious girl. Rika Furude. Let's stop this. Everything I was thinking of right now is merely conjecture. Tomorrow, first thing in the morning, I'll report everything I heard right now to HQ and await further orders. There was no mistaking the possibility that Onagafuchi Guardians were related to the case was there, and that the fact that my cover was blown meant that I was in a precarious position. But even everybody at HQ is already extremely busy, and might not be able to spare the support. I don't know, dude. If we have evidence that they're a lot more likely to be involved in kidnapping, which is a serious crime, and the fact that they seem to already know that I'm here, like, at the very least, I feel like we need to get rotated out with somebody else. It's not gonna happen because the story must go on, but like, at the very least, I would do that. If it's not that, like, we'd have to maybe consider a different approach.
もういいかい？よければ好きなところまで送るよ。
あ、すみません。では、お会いした元の駅までお願いします。
A rural road where even the streetlights were rare. I couldn't see anything. I wasn't aware of anything but the asphalt that was lit up by the headlights. Outside the light was simply darkness? Or was there something lurking there waiting to strike? I had to think I drew a short straw here. I wanted to go back to Tokyo. For some reason, the voice of the girl warning me to go back to Tokyo still lingered in my head. Dang. Oh, this is bad. This is a very precarious situation. Holy crap. That's terrifying. God, they're so scary. How are they so terrifyingly scary? All right, we got the tips. Then we'll run this to the end. Mahjong Prodigy, show off your skills. What's in the box? Oh no. All right, first is the investigation runs around. Aground, not around.
昨日銀座の料亭でお会いしてね。そういう話が出たんだよ。
別室の謁見でしょう。連中、公安に干渉しすぎですよ。あまり迎合すると悪い洗礼を残しますね。
犬飼大臣は公安の動きに不快感をあらわにしているらしい。多分月曜の町議で次官からその旨の話が出るんじゃないかと思う。
Right.
参ったな。
次官へは局長級に話つけてもらうしかないですよ。給料を多くもらってる人の当然の仕事ってことで。
まあそうなると局長からは絶対に大臣脅迫の物証を求められるよ
な。あの人、たまにどっちの味方かわかんなくなりますね。うちらの味方しなくてどうすんのっての。
まあ多分大臣を経由しての圧力だと思ってるけどね。俺が時間室で油汗かいて時間稼ぐ間に調査進めてもらうしかないよな。全身の汗絞られて絞りかすになっちゃうかもしれないけどな。でどうなの？調査の進行は。
期待してた濃厚なラインがことごとく外れて正直途方に暮れてます。
It's so rough at Tokyo too.
最近の大臣発言をまとめると、ひなみ沢ダムの計画の話が目立つっていう報告を聞いたけど。
目立つっていうか、本当に微細な程度の違和感ですね。たまたま県議連でのスピーチだったから、時事ネタを話しただけかもしれないし。
Yeah, I don't know, guys. I feel like you should be paying that attention.
確か地元団体が過激に抵抗してるってやつだっけ？鬼ヶ淵死守同盟。
確か赤坂君に調べてもらってたよね。
僕は連中には今回の事件は起こせないと踏んでいます。ですが疑わしいところのほとんどが真っ白な以上、疑いの枠から外すわけにはいかないかもですね。赤坂君からはその可能性は否定できないとの軽い報告は受けています。
なら調べてみる価値はあるんじゃないの？しらみつぶしなんだから、残る疑わしい団体がそこ一つならやるしかないでしょ。
ま、調べる団体はそこだけじゃないんですがね。鬼ヶ淵と同じ程度のレベルで疑わしい団体になると、もう相当の数になりますよ。
That's true. There probably are enough interested parties that they might be following other leads, like, significantly.
人手も時間も残業代も全然足りません。
赤坂君からさ、もうちょっと詳しく聞いてみてよ。俺はちょっと要注意に感じるけどな。
Good job,
その死守同盟。
彼、村人とうまく接触できたって連絡してきました。現地の警察とも連携できてるみたいですね。
赤坂君との連絡密にしてください。それで彼からの情報が引っかかるようであれば、増援を送ることもありということで。
So it sounds like they would be willing to send more people.
わかりました。あ、すいません、片岡市長。局長からお電話です。
Uh-oh.
こっちに回しますか。
ああ、いい。そっち行きます。もしもし
Interference, I'm guessing? Because he was just saying that he might be able to support us, and now, like, is that going to cause a problem? What's in the box? Do you believe that there are choices in life? Yes. There are many people who limit the following. If there only exist points in life where there are clear choices to make, we would be able to scrutinize those carefully and make decisions that would lead us to a better future. Every time I hear people limit as such, I cast it off as rather trivial worry. Even if you were given a clear choice, it wouldn't be meaningful at all. There wouldn't be any such path to a better future. It's hard. Is that hard to understand? Then let's pretend that in front of you are two strange boxes. In other words, you have two clear choices. Do you open the red box or the blue box? A lot of things would be uncertain, even if that were the choice, wouldn't they? If you don't have enough option of opening, if you didn't have the option of opening neither, then your choice boils down to the natural impulse of opening the box that holds the better result for you. Then after examining the shape and features of each and pondering the great many things, you have to pick either red or blue. If this was you, which box will you open? Well, given with nothing else but a mental image, I'll take blue because I like the color. Red or blue. If you were to go by their traditional meanings, then red would be the dangerous, threatening color. However, that doesn't automatically mean it would be calm or relaxing inside the blue box either. In fact, it might even be that the colors are a trap, make you want the red box when you have to open the blue, and have you open the blue. A trap? Could it be the contents of the box aren't a reward, but rather a penalty? See, now you're at a loss. So you're so conflicted over the choice because red and blue that you started wishing there were options to open neither and just leave. But there isn't. You have to open either the red or the blue box. Oh, I forgot to say this, but if you choose one box, the other will disappear. So you'll never know what the contents of the box you don't open. It'll just put that rule at the end of there for you. Now, why don't you choose? The red box or the blue box? It's alright, you won't lose anything by picking either one. Come now. Oh, is it actually a choice? Okay, I'm gonna save, because what is this? Can I not save? Oh, it's implying it won't matter, but maybe this is like a prelude to the decisions. Well, I'm gonna go with my gut, the blue box. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you choose, the other box disappeared. And you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now open up the box you chose. Inside the box there was a stick of chewing gum. I know you're a little disappointed. Well, that's only natural. No matter how you look at it, it looks like you drew the dud. The correct box may have had a bar of chocolate in it for you, for all you know. No, in fact, something incredible like a pair of tickets to Hawaii might have been in there. But even if you wanted to verify that, the other boxes already disappeared. There's no way you can check now. But if you think about it from the optimistic point of view, just maybe the other box is empty. This box was the winner. And being satisfied, or perhaps not, such a cheap prize. You pop it in your mouth and start chewing happily. So, what do you think in the end? If you were given a second chance, would you try to open the other box? But unfortunately, the chance to choose between the red box and the blue box has come and gone, never to be seen again. the chance to change your selection will never come. Don't your parents often say every choice you make in life only happens once, so choose carefully? See, choices aren't that great after all. Aren't you a little disillusioned now? Ha 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 ha. Interesting. Now I gotta try. Can I just go in again and actually pick the red and see? Because I'm guessing it's gonna be the same. Alright, so skip. Let's go to the red box. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you chose the color, the other box disappeared. So you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now open up the box you chose. Inside the box there was a piece of caramel. Right now you're thinking, that's it? That's right, the contents of the red and the blue box are a piece of caramel and a stick of chewing gum. Wait a minute, it knows I did that, doesn't it? You might have thought you made the wrong choice before, but now seeing them together like this, you can't really say that either choice was the wrong one. Well, I guess everybody had their personal preference. If you prefer caramel or gum, for example, you're definitely thinking of choosing to open the box again based on that preference. The clear choices you wanted were basically this. The selfish desire to open both boxes and compare the contents and pick the one that most suited you. But you see, reality is the same as this game. If you pick one, and you didn't choose, the one you didn't choose disappears. So there's no way you could check the result. At that time, if you had done this, or perhaps if you had done that, then it would have been hard to imagine you could be happier or perhaps less happy than you are right now. Gah. I don't know about you, I do think about that all the time. Like, I'm pretty happy. I think my life's pretty good, but there's definitely a lot of stuff I wish I could have done differently. And I think all of us have a bit of a fantasizing about like being able to like know what we know now, but either go back and remake choices, or maybe they get the classic isekai where you get jumped into another world and get to start fresh, but with all your knowledge. Like, there's something very appealing about that, because then you'd be like, surely I wouldn't make terrible mistakes again, or surely I'd be able to use my time more efficiently. That's like the seed of why isekai is such a popular genre. It's because the concept of the daydream of being able to start over fresh but not having lost your experiences to give you such an edge, and it would feel like you could just do so much more with that. But there's nothing stopping you from making choices now that you wish you'd made like a while ago. Like I said it many times, and I'll say it again. One of my favorite quotes was the best day to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best day to plant a tree is today. In the end, you only have the pleasure of approving or being disappointed about the choice you did make. But that's fine. After all, didn't you enjoy the thrill of making the choice? If, like now, you knew the contents of both boxes, then the choice between the red box and the blue box would be just a waste of time. Because instead of this boring game about boxes, you could be looking at the quickly changing events of summer sky, listening to the distant sound of thunder, pondering if it's going to rain or not. That'd be much more fun. That's pretty fun too, that like it did acknowledge that I went back and played the game again just to see. That's pretty clever. That's playing with the game mechanics in a fun way. A glint in the demon's eye.
Eh, はい。それで、お通夜が明日の午後6時からになりまして、告別式が明後日のお昼、12時から13時までになりまして、会場は沖宮セレモニーホールになります。
すっか。池澤助役のお孫さんの葬式じゃ、何にも挨拶なしってわけにもいかんね。みよ、代わりに出てえな。
うん、了解。喪服で行く？香典はいくらくらい？
学校の服でえんね。前のボタンちゃんと止めてくんねよ。香典は5万。10万包んだりな。
Jeez.
世話になったかんな。
There she is. There's that classic Mion. Mion quietly whistled in awe at the exorbitant amount of money her grandmother was offering.
池澤さんはな、沖宮の事務所長だった頃から、しっかりした人だったね。役人は挨拶って言っても、絶対に玄関までしか来ん。
One thing I just realized, like, I don't know why it took me this long to realize it, but the other games you could phase between the 3 different versions of that, but this game doesn't. Was this an exclusive console release? It couldn't have been, right? Oh, nope, I can. Okay. Okay, so it is exactly the same. She does not look like a child here. What is that? That's very strange. And she also looks very similar here. Like this one, the console one, they actually went with the look to try and like communicate this idea that like this is a much younger version of the person. That's just the same character. That's so weird. Also, it's kind of odd because I didn't remember selecting the console version for this. Every other game I've had to pick the console version because it defaulted to like the manga game version, which is like fine. It looks great, but this time I didn't. It's like it remembered what I did before. Weird.
でもな、池澤さんはわしがお茶を勧めるといっつも上がってくれて、ちゃんと話を聞いてくれた。人の話を最後まで聞く。本当に鏡みたいな人だったんね。
Also, I got so distracted. Yeah, she stays the same, Oryu, but like Mion looks like a completely different thing. So yeah, the console version must have been like the default version, because then you get this original, and there's no grandmother here. That's so interesting. That's wow. I'd love to know more about the history about that. The two guests made a show of nodding, making it clear they were paying attention, or as Oryu reminisced. The sight of them trying to not get on Oryu's bad side was humorous enough to elicit laughter from Mion occasionally.
で、池澤助役のお孫さんはいくつで亡くなったんね。
11歳だそうで。
Oh, dang. Oryu closed her eyes and shook her head lightly, lamenting the loss of such a young life.
確か、孫は一人だ言うてんな。
That'd be so devastating.
かわいそうにな。親より先に死ぬほどの親不幸はあるめな。
ばっちゃんも他人には優しいね。私やシオンが死んだら同じように悲しんでくれる？
アホん抜かすんでね。演技でもねすったなんと。シャラーあったく。
Oh, I clicked early. Having got the reaction she expected, Mion cackled. The two guests, unsure if they were supposed to laugh along, instead forced awkward smiles.
それでは本日は失礼いたします。では明日の夕方5時にお迎えに参りますんで。よろしくお願いいたします。ではごめんくださいませ。
After bowing their heads repeatedly, the guests left by the front door. Mion saw them off, waving her little hand goodbye.
帰ったよ。お役人もばっちゃのご機嫌伺いに大変だね。不法なんか電話でいいと思うのにね。
Well, it was true that Oryu Sonozaki was a central person to both her relatives and the residents of Hinamizawa village as a whole. As the voting bloc, they numbered in several thousand. It wasn't hard to imagine the mayor would try to pander to her. Unlike Mion, however, Oryu was looking up longingly at the sky from the veranda.
どうしたの？猛録した？
Okay.
誰のお孫さんであろうと。気の毒だのう思ったんよ。
I think she's thinking about the kidnapped kid. Saying that, she let out a deep sigh. Mion was let down, as normally her grandmother would have scolded her for the attitude.
ミオ。これ、例の大臣の孫。さらわれてからどのくらいになる？
4日かな。
Oryu let out a deep sigh.
旧敵の孫とはいえ、気の毒だな。
そう。
十分気はせいだろ。そろそろ終わりにしちゃれな。
It's interesting to see her being so compassionate in this regard, because she comes across as so just like Machiavellian, but like, nope, she's also a person. The playful expression drained from Mion's face, leaving behind a stern one. And then, as if to ascertain Oryu's will, looked into her eyes. Oryu, expressing her intention with only those eyes, looked back at me into Mion's.
お茶が欲しんで頼んでな。さっきのチョコレートも食べといね。
Mion gave a small nod, then turned around.
シミコさん、いますか？ばっちゃんに紅茶入れてあげてください。
From far away, a voice responded in the affirmative. Mion, after confirming she'd been heard, picked up the phone and began dialing.
あ、もしもし？うん。うちのお父さん、います。
Interesting. I think he's passing on the word like, hey, like, we shouldn't hold on to him too much longer. That implies that Mion's dad specifically is involved in the kidnapping, which is crazy. Holy crap, there's so much happening. Okay, so the insanity of all of this obviously is building, which makes sense. I like how it played with the choice system. That was really fun. Which it also introducing, I did set it to have the choices be set up, so I'm curious to see how that's all going to pan out. I'm sure I'm going to die a lot because I've always been very bad at picking the do not die route by default. And I'll talk my way into it. Like, I'll express like my thinking along the lines, and like I'll talk myself into death all the time. So I'm sure we're going to see that a lot. I also think that it's very, very crazy that they were able to have an inside person was not only be able to like you can even argue that they might actually not be involved in the kidnapping because they obviously have a source on the inside that's close enough to know that someone from the Ministry of Public Safety was going to be coming to town. Like, they really, really shouldn't have known that at all. So yeah, that's like implies that they've got some very interesting connections. And then to hear them just casually be like, don't mess with him yet. But if he does poke us around too much, you know what to do. That's terrifying. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed this episode, so I had to break it up. Again, I'm feeling kind of sick, and even now I'm starting to feel like really sleepy. I was hoping to get some more recording in, but I might have to stop for now. There's just so much to do still, so little time. But I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for being a part of the channel. I'm looking forward to seeing you all here, and especially if you can make it to the live stream on Monday night. That'd be really fun to be able to have you kind of join me for that. It's a rap party for Chaos Head, though, so if you haven't read Chaos Head, don't show up for that, because it's going to be very spoilery. But still, looking forward to it, so if you were following that series, I hope to see you there. And also keep in mind, when this has gone up, we should have finished the kind of like election of what series we're going to be doing next. So hopefully you participated in that. If you missed it, sorry. I mean, I try and post it everywhere I can to make sure that everyone has a chance to see it, but I'm sure people will slip through the cracks. So I don't know. Maybe if you have a recommendation, or if there's an issue with you like finding out that we were doing the channel vote, like give me a heads up, drop me a line in the comment section or in Discord or something, because if I can improve that, I would love to, but I've been trying to keep it relatively short so we kind of just keep things rolling, but I could always extend it and make it a full week for the election if that helps make sure everyone gets a chance to see it. So just give me a chance, give me a shout if you know, because again, like anytime we finish a Friday series, like the next series we play is going to be determined by vote every single time. So like it doesn't happen often because these games are long and they take a while to get through, but in the end it's always better because then we're like, yeah, like you always get to have that say in some like the games I get to play, because there's so many good games I want to play. There's so many great titles that are like queued up in my list of like games to play on the channel, and picking the one I want to play is very challenging. So being able to have your input really helps me know at least what you hope to see prioritized, and so that means the world to me. Anyway, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel, for joining me for this special part of the playthrough, and until the next video, watching me up, see me in next. I'll see you there.